It was the beginning of the end. I don't know if I fully recognized it at the time, but I had a feeling that my life was about to change as I knew it. I kind of knew that in that moment my family would never be the same. It was Thanksgiving, and we were driving home from my grandmother's down this dark road. We weren't far along our journey when we were met with lights and sirens. We were getting pulled over. I remember feeling afraid, and I also remember my father looking at my mom, confused. The police got out of the car aggressively, pointing their weapons at all areas of the car. And I remember my dad saying, "There are kids back there, there are kids back there." And then they got pulled out the car, and my parents were sat on the sidewalk, and they placed my mom in cuffs. I watched out the window, confused, scared, but having to be strong for my little brothers and sisters. It all happened so fast. Come to find out, my mother had a warrant for her arrest, and the vehicle we were in was stolen. That night, everything changed. I don't remember much after besides the fact that my parents tried to make it work, but eventually they separated. My father moved back to Maryland, and he brought my little brother with him. So our family that was once whole had became several different pieces of a puzzle that would never be put back together. For the next 2 years, my mom went downhill. She started drinking, drugging, different men in and out of the picture. Our stability was gone. There was no more consistency in our life, not even in our home. We hopped place to place, couch to couch, family member to family member. She had this friend that we used to go over her house all the time, and I knew if we were there and my mom was going to be drinking, and there was a chance that she would leave us for a few days. I always hated going there because I never knew what was going to be the outcome. If my mom was drinking and using drugs, there was no telling which version of her you would get. Sometimes it was the fun one that wanted to put on a talent show or put on a movie and have a movie night, or buy 100 scratch tickets so we could do it all together, and then buy us food if we want some money. Other times, she was aggressive, angry, manic. It could get really scary. I remember this one time we were over her friend's house, and I walked into the room because it was getting late and none of the kids had eaten. So I'd walked in the room to ask them if they could make us something to eat, and I remember this strong chemical-like smell. My mom had a pipe in her hand and she had just hit it. Her eyes was glazed over and red, her jaw hung a little to the left, and she instantly got mad, looked at me as if I had saw something I wasn't supposed to see. She said, "Get out," and slammed the door. And I knew that what she was doing in that moment was different than everything she was doing before. I ran to go tell my siblings that it was going to be a little while and I could make them some noodles. I remember making all of us ramen and thinking that something was wrong with my mom, something was different about her. That became the norm. It got more consistent. She started drinking all the time and her episodes would flare up. She'd call DCF on herself and tell them to come get us. We ended up in shelters. And there's one time when we were living in the shelter, my mom didn't come home for days. And during that time that she had disappeared, I was trying to hide my brothers and sisters so the people didn't know that she was gone. Somebody in the building told on us and they brought us down to the office and we were hauled off to a city we never been in, separated again until they found my mom. It was a roller coaster. We never knew where we were going to be. We never knew who she was going to be. There was no trust. There was no safety. There was no stability. There was no consistency. All the things a kid needs to thrive, I didn't have. And at the same time, I was being forced to be the adult, forced to make sure everybody around me was okay. Sometimes I wouldn't even go to school because I had to make sure my brothers and sisters did. Nothing was ever the same. And I remember grieving for who my mother used to be. I remember grieving for my family. I remember missing the old days where I got mom, the nurse, that went to work at nursing homes and brought us to sing to her clients on Sundays. I miss Father, the construction worker that brought me on site with him sometimes and allowed my inner tomboy to come out. I even miss going to church on Sundays and having a good meal together because it meant we were together. But somehow I knew that that would never be again, that my life was going to forever be inconsistent and I could only rely on me. It became abundantly clear that I had to play a different role in my family, that I could no longer be a kid, that I had to become hyper vigilant, hyper aware. I had to know my mom's mood so I could figure out which version of her we were going to get. I had to memorize my aunt's phone number so I had someone to call on speed dial when my mom decided she wasn't dealing with us anymore. I had to know when to keep my siblings quiet because mom was on the verge of losing it. I had to know when to keep them in the room so they didn't see the different men and the behaviors that were going on in the household. And that was choice number one. Understanding that I could only rely on me and making the choice that I'm going to show up and protect me and my siblings by any means possible.